Good evening, everyone. Today is the third Sunday of Lent. Here's a reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Since the Passover of the Jews was near, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. He found in the temple area those who sold oxen, sheep, and doves, as well as the money changers seated there. He made a whip out of cords and drove them all out of the temple area with the sheep and oxen, and spilled the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. And to those who sold doves he said, "Take these out of here and stop making my Father's house a marketplace." His disciples recalled the words of Scripture, "Zeal for your house will consume me." At this the Jews answered and said to him, "What sign can you show us for doing this?" Jesus answered and said to them, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The Jews said, "This temple has been under construction for 46 years, and you will raise it up in 3 days?" But he was speaking about the temple of his body. Therefore, when he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this, and they came to believe the Scripture and the word Jesus had spoken. While he was in Jerusalem for the feast of Passover, many began to believe in his name when they saw the signs he was doing. But Jesus would not trust himself to them because he knew them all and did not need anyone to testify about human nature. He himself understood it well. The Gospel of the Lord. Well, this Gospel passage reminds me a bit of an episode I saw on this television show called The Simpsons, where Homer does something foolish, obviously not the only time, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but I think he shot a rocket from his house, and it landed right where the church was, and pretty much destroyed it. So the pastor and all the churchgoers, or at least his most loyal churchgoers, they were all standing around surveying the damage, and they were wondering what they were going to do. They said, "Is somebody going to help us?" And the pastor says, "Well, nobody ever helps us." And just then a shadow appears on the ground, and it looks like the devil horns there, and you hear this ominous voice that says, "I can help." And of course it is the local corporate mogul, Mr. Montgomery Burns. And then the camera goes to him, and he says, "Oh, excuse me." And he pats down the little bits of hair that looked like his devil horns. And he made a deal with them, and it involves some kind of sponsorship. So anyway, the very next scene, they're in church, and you have all these vendors all around the wall on the inside of the church. And every so often during the sermon or during the service, someone who's at the podium will speak in this advertiser-sounding voice about some other sponsor, and then you would have all these flashing billboards, and even the pastor was being charged to say something about a sponsorship, and he just could not bring himself to do it. In the meantime, Mr. Burns is in the background saying, "Oh, he'll do it if he knows what's good for him." So anyway, to say the least, it was rather disturbing, yet kind of telling in a way, if you think about this particular gospel passage and what had come of that temple that Jesus visited. And being the Lenten season, this is a time to give that some thought. Consider what you can do for the church. You could do some volunteer work, or you could donate to the church in some way, like a tithe or something to that effect. Or you could think of it as you're going on a volunteer mission by giving, or you're giving to the church going on a volunteer mission. And Lent's a good time to be doing that. In fact, those sound like very appropriate Lenten promises. And those are the kinds of things where you can see if you keep doing it beyond Easter, and if you do, more power to you. I encourage you. And we have 4 weeks left of Lent, so if you haven't started anything like that, give it a shot now, because the church needs good people to support it. We want to be supported by the people. We want to be by the people and for the people, and not under and not under the thumb of some corporate mogul who could care less. So yeah, I encourage you over the next 4 weeks and hopefully beyond, and I wish you luck. Peace and God bless.